Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our first session in the State Representative Kam Buckner Virtual Job Fair Series. Today, we will be hearing from two presenters who will be conducting job seeker workshops to help familiarize you with the skills that you will need to be successful in the virtual hiring space. Our first presenter will speak for approximately 30 minutes each to give you some information about how to create an elevator speech and how to work a virtual job fair. Our final presenter will provide an overview of the state's hiring process and how to position yourself as a competitive applicant. If you have questions at any time, please type them into the chat and we will address them during the brief Q&A session that will be taking place after each presentation. If you have not already, please be sure to register for Thursday's informational session with employers and Friday's breakout room sessions, where you will have an opportunity to communicate directly with employer representatives. A link to the registration page will be provided in the chat. Please note you will need to be sure to register for each session individually. Today's session is being recorded and will be made available in the employer booths for you to refer to later. Now, I am pleased to introduce State Representative Kam Buckner. Rep. Buckner.
Thank you, Daniel. Good morning, everybody, and thank you all for logging on today. Welcome to part one of our three-part virtual job fair. I'm Kam Buckner, State Representative of the 26th Legislative District, and it's a privilege and a pleasure to be with you here today. This entire engagement is about access and about connecting people with opportunities. What we've learned from COVID is that distance does not separate us, silence does. So this is about talking, conversation, and about being intentional. It's important to me that no matter what's going on around us, that we have a thriving, supported, and successful workforce. It's what drives us. So in our current situation, we have to find creative ways to accomplish that. And that is why we're here today. The three parts are broken down the following way. Today is the get started portion. There will be online workshops, including assistance building your resume. April 1st, we'll be connecting you with employers. You'll have a chance to search through virtual job fair booths and attend informational sessions with employers. And April 2nd, there will be the interview portion. On the spot, small group interviews with employers that will hopefully lead to job offers. I want to very quickly thank our partners in this engagement: the Chicago Cook Workforce Partnership, the Illinois Department of Employment and Security, workNet, and the Chicago Federation of Labor, Workforce, and Community Initiative. Thank you for your help in bringing this into fruition. And so without any further ado, I will introduce Eileen Vesey from the Chicago Federation of Labor.
Good morning, everyone. Happy to be here and very happy to be partnering in this event. My name is Eileen Vesey. I'm with the Chicago Federation of Labor, Workforce, and Community Initiative. And today we're going to be doing two presentations, the first being creating an elevator pitch, the second being preparing for a virtual job fair. Next slide, please. So the purpose of this first presentation is to explain what an elevator pitch is, why you need an elevator pitch, and how to create your own elevator pitch. Elevator pitches are also referred to as elevator speeches. Due to this short period of time, this is an information session. We're not going to be taking live questions. There will be opportunities to ask questions in the chat, and we will try to answer them if time allows. Attendees are asked to stay muted during this. Next slide, please. So what is an elevator pitch? An elevator pitch is a quick and compelling summary of your background and experience. It's an effective way to introduce yourself in a very short amount of time. It's called an elevator pitch because it's meant to be brief enough to deliver convincingly during a quick elevator ride. You can use an elevator pitch at job fairs, career expos. You can use them online in your LinkedIn profiles, for example. And it's also a great way for you to gain confidence in introducing yourself to hiring managers and company representatives. It can also be used during job interviews, especially when you're asked about yourself. Interviewers often begin with the question, "Tell me about yourself." And you can think of your elevator pitch as a very short version of your response to that question. This is also a tool that you would use just in regular networking events, whether you're currently working in a position or you're seeking a new opportunity. Next slide, please. Who needs one? The short answer is everyone. Everyone needs to have an elevator pitch prepared. Whether you're a career changer, you're a new graduate just looking to get into the job market, you're looking to get into a new kind of position, or you're just trying to build your network, you should always have an elevator pitch or an elevator speech ready. And it doesn't matter what industry you work in or what kind of job you're looking for, particularly when it comes to job search. This is something that you will be using on a regular basis, and so it is something that you should have prepared. Next slide, please. So now we're going to talk about the components of a good elevator pitch. The key to an impactful elevator pitch is to keep it short and sweet. Okay, it should be brief and to the point. It should be restricted to really no longer than 30 to 60 seconds. You're not looking to include your entire work history or a lot of personal information or all your career objectives. Your pitch should really be a short recap of who you are and what you do. It should be targeted. So what that means is you should know your audience. You should be speaking to them. You need to focus on what you think is going to be most important for them to hear in the short amount of time that you have to speak with them. In some cases, using industry jargon or acronyms can be a good move when you're doing this. It demonstrates your industry knowledge, but we do caution to be careful about using jargon, particularly if you're speaking to recruiters who might not be familiar with the terms. So keep it simple and keep it focused. Focus on your skills, achievements, and accomplishments specific to the company representative that you're talking about to, or the positions that they have available. Your elevator pitch should explain who you are and what qualifications and skills you have. And you want to try and focus on specific examples or highlights, essentially assets that add value to the situation. This is your chance to brag a little bit. You have to be careful to avoid sounding boastful, but you want to be confident and be able to share what you bring to the table. You need to be persuasive. So even though it's a short pitch, your elevator pitch should be compelling enough to want to compel the person you're talking to be interested in getting your information and continue to talk to you. It needs to be positive. So you often aren't interviewing for a specific position when you deliver your pitch. So you do want to appear open-minded and flexible. Don't lead or talk about things you'd rather not be doing. So if, for example, if you don't want to travel a lot for work, which is completely legitimate, you don't need to volunteer that information about why you're looking for a new opportunity. This is really your chance to make a great first impression with a potential employer, and you don't want to waste it because really there are no do-overs. There's not a chance to repeat it. And last is that you prepare it and you practice it. This is not something that you want to try and do on the fly with no preparation. The best way for you to feel comfortable and to sound confident about giving an elevator pitch is to practice it until you are comfortable with it, and it is short and it sounds natural without sounding memorized or robotic. You will get used to varying the conversation as you practice doing so, and the more you practice, the easier it will be to deliver when you're at a career networking event or a job interview. Next slide, please. Don't rush through it. Don't speak too fast. This is why practicing is so important. You want to sound confident and you want to show good communication skills. But if you're rushed, you create more stress for yourself. You can sound less confident. And it also becomes harder for the other person to follow and focus on what you're talking about because you're speaking so quickly. Don't ramble. Don't get off track. This is where it comes back to knowing your audience and being very targeted about what you're talking about. Don't talk about a lot of different topics or things that aren't important to your audience. It can be distracting, it can be and confusing, and you can completely lose that person because within the 30 to 60 seconds that you have to introduce yourself, If you don't talk to them about something that, or highlight anything that's going to be important to them for the jobs that they're trying to fill, then you will lose a great opportunity. You want to watch your body language. So whether it's in person or virtual, you're on camera or you're not, you want to be aware of your tone of voice, speaking in monotone, not looking at the camera if you're on camera. If you are in video, you want to try and maintain eye contact. You want to be aware of your background. And if you're on your phone, you don't want to be moving around while you're talking. You want to make sure that you're sitting in one place, that there's no distractions for you or for the person that you're speaking with. As I mentioned, you want to be careful about using a lot of slang or acronyms. You don't necessarily know if the recruiter or the person you're speaking with knows or understands them all. And this is especially important if you're looking to change careers. Don't be negative. Don't talk about that you're, for example, that you're leaving, you're looking for a new opportunity because you hate your current job. Stay positive and be confident. And you want to create the impression that you're going to be a great person to add to the recruiters or the employer's team. And last, don't be generic. This goes back to knowing your audience and targeting what you want to say. Be specific. Speak to the positions that that person has or speak to their company. For example, don't say, I'll take any job. You want to say to somebody, I saw that your company was going to be here. I see that you're hiring for this position, and I'm very interested and excited about it because this is my background and it relates directly to your position. Next slide, please. How do you create an elevator pitch or an elevator speech? It really comes down to thinking about how you would answer, tell me about yourself. You want to do a brief introduction, talking about your related experience and education. You want to try and highlight specific skills, accomplishments, or achievements, and give examples if possible. For example, if you're looking for manufacturing positions, things that are really important in manufacturing are safety. If you have an excellent safety record and no time lost, here's an opportunity to talk about that. If you're looking for a job that's more customer service focused, you can mention that you've received awards or you've gotten highlighted for customer service or been recognized for excellent customer service. You want to express interest in the company or the job opportunity. And you want to talk about why you would like to work for them. And so that really comes down to the 4 questions we have highlighted here. Who you are, what do you do, why should the recruiter listen to you, and what do you want? And again, you have to be careful that you're not talking generically. It goes back to being very targeted in what type of position you're looking for, what the company or the recruiter is looking for, and trying to create that match. Next slide, please. We have here an example of an elevator pitch. Hi, I am Sam Jones. I'm currently a customer service executive at ABC Group of Companies, where I tend to over 20 clients each day. Before I started working at my current place of employment, I've always been passionate about problem solving, even as a teenager, which is what inspired me to study communications. I've worked in several places until now as a customer service executive, and I've enjoyed the experience so far. Now I think that I've come to a point in my career that I want to put myself in an environment that will challenge me to do more and to add more value. You can see even in this short example, this person is introducing themselves. They're being very targeted. They're targeting customer service. They throw in a highlight that they provide services to over 20 clients each day. So that's being very specific. And they talk about their interest in communications. This is something that they've always wanted to do, and they're looking for more challenging opportunities. Next slide, please. Conclusion, to this is it's really important first to research. Okay, this is where it comes down to knowing what you're targeting, what kinds of positions you're targeting, pulling examples from your background, from your work experience, from your education that you can throw in, whether it's particular skill or an accomplishment or a highlight that you have achieved. It's preparing. You do have to sit down and prepare and really think about what you would say in the short amount of time that you have to say it. And that last piece is practice. Every opportunity that you have, you want to practice your elevator pitch. This is not something that you want to try and do, off the cuff and with no preparation at all, because you only have a short amount of time to make a very good impression. Next slide, please. There are many, many resources available online and that you can look up on how to put together an elevator pitch. Here are some of the resources that we use when we're working with job seekers. Illinois WorkNet, ONET, Career One Stop, and America's Career InfoNet. These can be excellent places to start to look for information when you are in your job search, not just about elevator pitches, but resumes, interviewing, career assessments, looking for places where you can get assistance with us, and also training opportunities. Next slide, please. For more information and for other workshops, please feel free to contact us. We are a delegate agency of the Chicago Cook Workforce Partnership, and we provide services to jobs, whether they're looking to change careers or they're looking to get into a new career. We offer services virtually, and we have services by appointment only. We'd be happy to talk further with you and provide you additional information.
Fantastic. Thank you for that, Eileen. And I do believe that will conclude that first workshop. Is that correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. So what I want to go ahead and do is just give a brief pause here for the job seekers that just joined. If you do have any questions regarding how to create that elevator pitch, as Eileen just covered, please feel free to enter those into the chat and we'll get those answered as we work through the presentations. If we do have any additional time at the end of our workshops today, we will allow for an opportunity for a more open Q&A portion as well. But in the meantime, please feel free to enter those questions in the chat. And just as a side note, two things that I'd like to mention. If you have not yet registered for the subsequent sessions that will be taking place for the Rep Buckner event happening on Thursday, April 1st and Friday, April 2nd, please register for those events as well. You will need to register for each of those sessions in order to be able to attend. Thursday, for those that are not aware, will be an informational session with employers. And Friday will be an opportunity to have a small group interview or discussion with the employers who will be participating in this event. So just be aware of that. If you have not registered for those other sessions, please do so. And then kind of a final note, again, we wanted to make sure that you all had enough lead time to be able to create your elevator pitch. That is why we have allowed for a few days in between today's session and then obviously Thursday and Friday. So just wanted you all to be aware of that as well. Eileen will go ahead and transition into our second presentation now. Thank you.
Great. So this next presentation is specifically preparing for a virtual job fair. Next slide, please. Okay, the same format as the previous one. So we are going to be talking about tips and tricks to prepare for a virtual job fair. There's going to be opportunities for Q&A to ask questions at the end if time allows. And also, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. Attendees are asked to stay muted. Next slide, please. Okay, how do you prepare for a virtual job fair? The same way you'd prepare for an in-person job fair. At a job fair, you can connect directly with recruiters and hiring managers from a wide range of companies and learning about them as they learn about you. A virtual job career fair is much like the live version with some exceptions. Attending a virtual career fair is somewhat similar to being in an online discussion group or chat room. And then once you log in, you typically see rooms with specific employers in each one. The benefits to a virtual job fair is there is decreased social pressure, particularly if you're an introvert. Virtual job fairs can make this first step in the interview process a lot easier. So you get the benefits of a traditional job fair without the anxiety of large crowds. And they also tend to be smaller in size and more personal. So there are more opportunities potentially to connect and to speak directly with recruiters and employers. Next slide, please. The other benefit is virtual job fairs do not require travel, so there's less pressure with that. However, the differences are around technology, so we're going to spend some time talking about that this morning. First and foremost, you want to prepare your equipment and your space. So the first piece of that is your devices. You want to make sure that whatever your device you're using, whether it's a desktop, a laptop, a tablet, or your phone, is updated and can function without issues and handle whatever software is being used for the virtual meetings. If your technology is older, then you want to consider trying to update it or borrowing from somebody to ensure that you don't have any problems chats or video meetings. We generally advise that you not use your phone unless it's absolutely necessary, because it may not have the same kind of connection strength and the quality as other devices. Additionally, the smaller and narrower screen can be more awkward during a video chat. You want to test your internet and video connections. So if you're attending from home, you want to check your internet and Wi-Fi connections ahead of time. Be sure that they'll send in information quickly and clearly, and that these same rules apply for attending outside of your home as well. You want to understand the platform being used. So for example, for this event, we're using Zoom. That's one potential platform. There's Teams, there's WebEx, there's a few others out there. So you want to make sure ahead of time that you understand, know what platform is being used and that your equipment is set up. So whether you need to download a specific app, whether you need to test that to accessing it through a web browser, no matter what it is, because you don't want to waste time the day of trying to figure this out when you could be chatting and engaging in the virtual job fair. And if you're unsure of how it works, you ask for help. In general, again, our organization, the partner organizations through the Chicago Cook Workforce Partnership, these are some of the services that we provide job seekers, helping you understand and get connected and get set up for these kind of resources when you're looking for work. You want to prepare your space. So you want to find a quiet space, ideally, where you can sit and concentrate. Now, this has been a huge challenge during COVID because children are learning from home. You're sharing multiple pieces of equipment. You might be living in a smaller space where you don't have a separate room. And those things are going to happen. But ideally, whenever possible, you want to try and reduce or eliminate background noise. There's different ways to do that, especially when you have young children. One creative way to do that with young children is to have a baseball cap if you're not on camera and tell them while you're wearing the baseball cap, they can't interrupt you. When you have the baseball cap off, they can come up to you. So there's different ways to be thinking about how to prepare your space. But the key is to try and minimize any background distractions and noise. You want to prepare to be on camera. While it's not required, it is possible, it's a good idea to be on camera if you're able to be prepared. So that first and foremost means dressing and preparing as if you were going to be meeting in person for an interview. Checking your background, making sure that there's nothing you wouldn't want anybody to see in your background, or checking to make sure that your background setting is blurred, which many of the platforms allow you to do nowadays. Make sure that you have a space set up. What you shouldn't be doing is moving around. It becomes too big a distraction for not only for you, but for the person that you're talking to. If you have your camera bobbing around, or only half your head is showing, or you're accidentally covering up the microphone, and so you're not hearing everything, or the person you're talking to is not hearing you clearly. This can also be an indication of how serious or interested you are in the opportunities. You could be sending the message that you're really not that interested if you have not sat down to take the time to actually actively participate in that kind of event. So you do want to be careful about that. It also can inadvertently be an indication of how up to date your computer or your technical skills are. So this becomes very important for job search depending on the type of job or position that you are seeking. If it's a job where they're going to expect that you're more up to date and knowledgeable on these kinds of platforms or in these kinds of situations, then it could kill your job chances if during this kind of event, a virtual job fair, you are having all sorts of tech problems because you didn't prepare ahead of time. Next slide, please. These next activities are more traditional for regular in-person job fairs. So this is what you should be doing across the board. You want to research the companies that are participating. Having a background on the organizations means that you can ask specific questions about the job and the company. And that potentially impresses company representatives because it does show a more genuine interest in them. So how can you do that? Look at their website and other social media pages. Google them to see what information comes up. So just do an internet search. See what job postings they have out there. Read about the positions and see what they're looking for. Check websites such as Glassdoor for additional insight about the company and culture. So you really want to take those steps to do that research before you go into that event to target who you want to meet. Once you do that, decide which of the companies you want to meet with. You probably won't have the time to meet with every company that participates. So you need to be picky and target the companies or the jobs that you really have an interest in or that are going to be the best match for you. By creating a priority list of employers, you don't have to waste time wandering around, jumping into different rooms and trying to decide who to start a conversation with. You'll know when you get into the event who you want to target, what you want to focus on, and that will greatly increase your chances of success. Once you prioritize your list of companies, try and visit them in that order. If all goes well, this should allow you enough time to have some interaction with the people from the organizations or to learn more about them. Create and update your resume if you don't have it already. So once you identify the companies and positions, try and tailor your resume and have it ready to send electronically right away in the event that you have that opportunity during or after the job fair. This is also the time you want to create or update your elevator pitch, which we just talked about, and target it to those companies or to those positions, the positions that you're most interested in. You want to prepare for potential interview questions. You never know how many people are going to be participating or how many people are going to go into a chat room. And so if it's a smaller group, there might be an instance where you are asked more direct questions. And so you do want to be prepared to answer any potential kind of interview question around your work, around your experience, your skills, any highlights or achievements. And in the event that there is time allowed, you want to prepare a list of questions to ask. So after you're doing your research about the company or the job, if there's any additional questions that you have that you weren't able to find answers to by doing that research, this can be an opportunity potentially to ask the employer directly, about workplace culture, about career advancement opportunities, anything that's going to, again, show your genuine interest in the job or in working with that company. Next slide, please. The day of the job fair. So for the virtual job fair, you want to log in a little early to do a final check of your connection and video. Make sure you're not having any issues or that you don't have to make any adjustments to where you're sitting. Again, testing your camera, making sure your looks okay, making sure you can see your face if you're planning on being on camera, and just overall checking on how it looks. You want to be confident and enthusiastic. Again, regardless of whether you're in person or meeting virtually, your tone of voice becomes very important. How you communicate, being very targeted, staying on point becomes very important. And catching people's attention in a very short amount of time. So again, generally that 30 to 60 seconds for an elevator pitch introducing yourself. You don't want to be bringing up anything negative, that you hate your current job, you don't like your boss, you are bored, you want to find something different. Nothing negative. You want at all times to be positive and to demonstrate a great attitude. Take notes if necessary. So this goes back to having your space set up. Have a notepad and a pen handy. Typically in virtual job fairs, employers are giving brief presentations about their positions and about their company. And this could be an opportunity, again, for those follow-up questions where they talk about something in their presentation and you want to make sure that if you have an opportunity to, you follow up and ask them a question afterwards, or that you're referencing it in a follow-up application or outreach. And open the door for the follow-up. So that means ask for next steps and contact information. Now, you can't follow up if you don't know who you've talked with. Next slide, please. So after the job fair, keep the momentum going. Reach out or follow any instructions that were provided by the employer immediately after the job fair. And this again goes back to making sure you have updated your resume already, and you only have to make minor tweaks based on what the employer or the recruiter might have mentioned during the job fair or in follow-up questions. But you don't want to delay that. As soon as possible, you want to do that follow-up and make that contact. If possible, send thank you notes to everyone. Thank you notes can be another way to make you stand out, because not a lot of thank you notes are sent as often today. If possible, connect on LinkedIn. This depends on the industry, but ask the representatives if you can add them or connect with them on LinkedIn following the event. This is can be a great way to stay connected. And in the event that one position isn't open, you've created that connection potentially for other opportunities with that company. Next slide, please. So the conclusion to this is be prepared. Test your connections. Make sure your equipment is set up and up to date. Make sure your space is prepared, that there's not a lot of clutter, that you have some place that you're sitting. Avoid walking around. If you're going to be on camera, make sure that you're dressed for an interview. Make sure that your video is working, your full face is clear, the sound is good. Make sure that you're researching before the job fair who's going to be there, what kinds of positions are going to be highlighted, so that you can be much more targeted in the activities that you're doing, and then that makes that more productive. And make sure to follow up or ask for next steps about following up, especially if it's a job or a company that you really, really are enthusiastic about applying to or working for. Next slide, please. And again, we go back to, there are many, many resources online that you can search, do a Google search and look up how to prepare for job fairs. These are the resources some of the resources that we use with job seekers. The workNet system through the Chicago Cook Workforce Partnership has many agencies all around Cook County. So if we're not convenient for you, there's other agencies and partners that would be. We are all providing workshops. We're providing job seeker services. And if you need more one-on-one assistance, the partners through the Chicago Cook Workforce Partnership, we're going to be able to provide you that assistance. All you need to do is to reach out. And that concludes my presentations. And now, if there's any additional questions. So I'm looking in the chat. There's been how do we write our elevator pitch? So again, thank you, Donnie. Your elevator pitch is unique to you. Until you memorize it, you should write it down and have it in front of you. Yes, and so your elevator pitch, again, should be targeted towards the type of position you're looking for, your skills, your work experience, education experience that line up with that position, and include a couple of key highlights since you only have 30 to 60 seconds. Somebody asked if you'll be able to see the list of employers beforehand. So that list was included in the emails for this event with links.
Fantastic. Thank you for that, Eileen. And thank you for leading both of those very informative presentations. I'm sure there are many job seekers on the call who probably got a lot out of those and will be better prepared for the subsequent sessions that'll be taking place later this week. Thank you so much, Eileen. And at this point, I do want to take a brief pause again and just let folks know who have maybe joined the session a little bit late. This is part one in a three-part series that's being sponsored, of course, by State Representative Kam Buckner. Our next session will be Thursday, April 1st. During that session, we will have employers on the line giving brief informational presentations just so you all get familiarized with their organizations, the services they offer, and the job positions that they're seeking. We'll also have some of our partner delegate agencies on the line as well. They will be giving some information about resources that are available that you can use in your job search as well. And then Friday, our final session, that will be obviously April 2nd. We will be holding a small group interview session where you'll be able to meet one-on-one with the employers who will be presenting, during this week's events. You'll have an opportunity to speak with them directly, ask any questions that you might have, and potentially, hopefully, land a job. Just as an FYI, if you have not yet registered for those subsequent sessions, you'll want to make sure to register for each of the sessions that you want to attend, both Thursday and Friday, if you'd like to be a part of those as well. Again, I will make sure that the link gets added to the chat. I believe it was just added. Please make sure to, again, register for those subsequent sessions. Eileen, I think we might have a few additional questions in the chat regarding some of those additional presentations that you gave.
Yeah, so somebody has asked, what's the most important thing an employer is looking for in an elevator pitch? The short answer is they're looking for the right fit. They're looking for somebody who wants to work at their company, who is interested and wants to do the job that they're trying to fill, and somebody that they're not going to have to worry about is going to leave, after 3 or 6 months, or isn't going to be a team player. So you really it depends on the job and your match to it. How much of a match can you make to that? So if it's the job requires skills that you've worked in that industry before, and then you want to pick out any key highlights. So for example, if you're in manufacturing, what's really important in manufacturing are things like excellent safety. Safety is huge. Quality control, having strong attention to detail, being able to work in a fast-paced environment. If you're looking for a position that requires, or they're looking for more customer service, where you're working with people directly, providing customer service, then you want to highlight key things related to customer service. Have you worked in customer service before? Have you gotten any recognition, special recognitions for providing excellent customer service? So things like that. So you have to, and employers, they're looking for the right fit. And an elevator pitch is not going to get you a job, but it will potentially open the door for you to get an interview, to continue that conversation, to be able to submit your resume. Some other questions that we have. What resources do you recommend for those of us? I'm sorry, Anel, I'm not quite sure if you can, I'm not quite sure what you're asking. There's resources online, lots of different resources on how to do put together elevator pitches, how to prepare for job search. Will we be sending our resumes to the employers? I don't know if anybody can answer that directly. There will be opportunities, yes, to apply directly for the positions. I think the employers will, I believe, and somebody correct me, will provide specific directions because it will be different for each employer on how to do that. Does anybody have any of the other partners have any additional information on that?
If you are correct with that, Eileen, and if anybody from Chicago Cook has anything additional to add to that, please feel free to chime in as well for the job seekers that are on the call.
Somebody's asked, can someone evaluate our resume prior to the job fair? We will definitely, we're happy to help if you want to send it to our email, info@cflinitiative.org. I'm trying to provide you some initial feedback. If we get swamped, we might not get to everyone, but we can certainly help provide some assistance after the event as well. Someone asked, I struggle with asking questions after an interview. What do you recommend? I retain the info from the interview and research the company prior to interviewing. So again, it depends on the job. It depends on what type of position you're looking for, but some common follow-up questions after a job interview might be, what are the expectations the first 30, 60, or 90 days in the job? What are their performance measurement requirements? You know, if by 30 days you're supposed to be at this, 60 days you're supposed to be at another level, those can be good follow-up questions. Asking if this is a brand new created position or if this position was available before, and what happened, why did the other person leave? Those could be good follow-up questions. Asking if there's training, what kind of training is provided as part of the onboarding. So again, those can all vary depending on the company, your background, and the employer. We have suggested a list of questions that you could potentially ask. So if you email us, we'd be happy to send you those questions that you can pick and choose from. Somebody's asked, I've been out of the workforce for a few years, took care of children, completed education. Okay, now this looks like what do resources? Okay, so it's what research do you recommend for those of us who've been out of the workforce for a few years? It's the same process, but again, you were doing things. You weren't necessarily getting paid from an employer, but you were might have been managing a household, you were going back to school. That gets a little off topic for this event, but we're happy to provide more information and provide more one-on-one assistance for that specific, for those specific scenarios. And also please reach out to us, or the Chicago Cook Workforce Partnership website has other partners as well. Somebody asked, should you state you were impacted by COVID-19 layoff in an elevator pitch? You don't need to. You only have 30 to 60 seconds. You just want to highlight really on skills, accomplishments, highlights. So many people have been impacted by COVID, especially if you worked in the hospitality or retail industries across the board. That's not something you need to spend time highlighting in an elevator pitch. Somebody asked, so will you be able to see a list of the employers beforehand? So yes, that list was sent out in the email that you received when you registered for this event.
Yeah, and kind of building off of that as well. Thank you for that, Eileen. A list of the participating employers is also included on that registration page. I do believe my colleague put a link to that page in the chat here. If you scroll up, it should be the same link that you used to register for this event as well. So if you go back to that page and scroll down, there will be a complete list of the employers who will be participating, just an FYI. And again, if you do have any additional questions for Eileen regarding any of the material that was covered here today, please feel free to enter that into the chat and we'll get that answered for you before we move on to our next presenter. Give it just one moment here. Thank you, Eileen, for adding that contact information in the chat. Fantastic. Well, it does not appear that we have any additional questions at the moment, Eileen. So thank you so much for your time today. We appreciate you giving both of these presentations, trying to get folks prepared for these upcoming workshops. Much appreciated. Thank you so much. I do believe we have one additional question in the chat, Eileen, if you'd be able to kind of respond or answer that as well.
Yeah, sure. So the question is, I find that I often get shortchanged on pay negotiation. How can I avoid this? I do my research on the company, but struggle here. That goes back to looking at, and the short answer for this event is, that goes back to looking at what's the pay scale across the board for your position. At this current time, there's a few different resources available or ways you can do that. One way to look up average or median wages for different positions locally is through the ONET online website, and I'll put it in the link again. But that website is great. It provides detailed occupation information, and it even provides all the way down to, you can see what the reported wages are for a position in around Cook County in the Metro Chicago area. And that can be potentially a baseline that you use for negotiations for wages or what your salary might be. You have to know what they're paying on average in the area for that type of position to make sure that your request lines up or is in line with what's going on in the industry right now.
Fantastic. Thank you for that information, Eileen. And I did go back one slide. You should see up on your screen now a direct link or URL to ONET and some of the other resources that Eileen covered here today. I believe she's also putting that in the chat as well. So please feel free to use that resource as you are preparing for those job seeker workshops, or not workshops, but small group interviews, excuse me, that will be taking place on Friday. Again, we'll kind of do one more final call here for questions for Eileen. Give it just a moment. And if we do not have any additional questions, we will move forward with our next presenter, which will be Myra Magana with CMS. And if you do have any additional questions that come up regarding any of the things that were presented here while our second presenter is presenting, please feel free to enter those into the chat. Eileen, you'll be sticking around for the remainder of the session. Is that correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So even if Eileen is not able to answer any of your questions that you do have directly, she still will more than likely be able to answer some of those questions in the chat. Eileen, thank you so much again for your presentations today. Much appreciated. We will go ahead and transition to our next presenter. That will be Myra Magana with CMS. She will be covering the state hiring process for folks on the call who might be interested in a career in state government. So Myra, are you able to unmute yourself?
Good morning, Daniel. Yes, I am.
Good
Can you hear me well?
Loud and clear. Thank you, Myra.
Awesome. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, everyone, for attending this wonderful event. I think this is a lot of great information. And I will be following Eileen's presentation, giving you information about the state employment process, resources that are available to you, how you can navigate that process, and some insight and tips on, trying to do this more effectively. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get started. Go ahead, Daniel. So Central Management Services is an agency that a lot of people are not really clear as to what it is and what it does. They hear it a lot when it comes to state employment, but with Central Management Services is an agency that provides support for the other state agencies under the jurisdiction of the governor. And so there's a variety of ways that CMS supports these agencies, but as it pertains to employment, there are very specific ways. Daniel? Next slide. Oh, yeah, thank you. So CMS provides facilitates some human resource aspects for these state agencies. And one of those ways is by providing for them a platform for the state agencies to post their opportunities. So if you go to work.illinois.gov, you can actually see the vacancies for a variety of state agencies on there. So you'll see vacancies for DCFS, DHS, Department of Labor, DOIT, Department of Innovation and Technology. There are about 45 different state agencies that are under the jurisdiction of the governor, and they all post their vacancies on this one website. So this becomes a one-stop shop for the public so that you can actually go to this website and look at all the different opportunities that you have available to you with the state and the state agencies. CMS also provides a centralized evaluation process for the state agencies. So when it comes to the application process, as you'll see with this presentation, the process is very different from the private sector and what you would normally experience. There's actually an evaluation process that you undergo at the front end of the application process. And CMS is who conducts those evaluations for the state agencies so that once they are in front of a candidate, they already know that that candidate has been evaluated and is qualified for the position. At that point, they're just trying to see if the candidate is a good fit. So they don't have to worry about trying to see if these qualifications are the ones that they need for filling that position. So that also is a benefit for the applicants because you know that when you're interviewing for a position, you know you meet the qualifications for that position. And now you're also trying to see if this vacancy is a good fit for you too. CMS does also provide resources to applicants who are trying to navigate this process, and I'll be giving you information on those resources this morning as well. So there's a variety of different things that can be leveraged. A lot of people don't really know about them, but you'll get some insight on that today. Next. There are a lot of benefits of working for the state. There's definitely room for professional growth. When you come into the state, do know that you are not limited to growing within the agency that you have come into. You are definitely able to grow within the agency that you've come in, but you can also apply through the other agencies as well. So you can actually come in one position in one agency and then promote to another position within another agency. So there's a lot of room for that. There's also an internal program for state employees that assists them with identifying a target title and finding the path to get to that target title, and that is the Upward Mobility Program. So not only is there room for growth, we also assist you with that growth too. For those of you who are bilingual candidates, the state does provide a 5% increase in pay for positions that have been specifically coded to be bilingual positions where the bilingual skill set is a requirement to fill that position. So definitely keep an eye out for those positions that have an additional language requirement if you're fluent in that additional language. The health benefits with the state actually start the first day you start your employment. So the first day you report to work, that day you have medical, dental, and vision benefits available to you. The state also does have a pension plan. So for those of you thinking about retirement and what will be available to you at that point, there are pension plans associated with state employment as well. Next. Some of the key points that I'll be going through in the next slides will be identifying titles, how to do that, what ways you can do that, what resources you have available to you in doing that, what resources you have available to you in applying and going through this process. I'll be going over how to submit your applications, and I'll be giving you an explanation of how grading works with the state as well. Don't worry about retaining every single detail of this process. One of the resources that I'll be giving you today will be how to get additional assistance in navigating this process outside of this workshop. And you will also have all the contact emails that I will be placing on the chat for you, as well as the website, which has all of the contact information as well. Next. In identifying the job titles, applicants can actually do this themselves by going on our website. You can go to work.illinois.gov and do an independent search for different positions utilizing keywords. You can search based on the county you want to work in to see what positions are open. You can search based on the agency that you're interested in. So there's a variety of ways to do searches on the website. However, the names of the positions will not always resonate with what you typically think of as the position's name. So, for example, the state utilizes the position of a technical advisor, and that's actually an attorney. And that one would not normally think of that as the position to look for when they're trying to apply for a position as an attorney. The state utilizes the position as a stores clerk, and the state does not have any retail establishments. That's actually a warehousing position. So to help you minimize the confusion that might arise when you're looking for these positions, we also provide career counseling to help individuals identify the titles that they qualify for and also help them navigate this process. We do have career counselors through the local assessment centers. We have counselors that focus on assisting veterans, and we have counselors through the Diversity Enrichment Program, which is a program that does do counseling, but we also do the outreach as well. So, and that is actually the program that I work with, and so that allows me the opportunity to provide these workshops to help people understand this process, but we do also provide career counseling as well. Next. So in career counseling, you have two avenues for getting career counseling at this time. One is by requesting career counseling via mail. And for this, you would send your application to one of our local offices, and you would send along with your completed application a note, a letter saying that you're requesting career counseling by mail. You can also go ahead and indicate what counties you want to work in. You can indicate if there's a specific agency you really have an interest in. You can indicate if there's a certain field that you really want to tap into. So you want to make sure to give the counselor as much insight as to what you want so that they can definitely hone in onto the titles that will fall within those parameters. You can also just say that you're open. Hey, I just want to get my foot in the door. I would like to, get into a position within these particular counties that I'm open to working in, or I'm open to relocating to such and such county. So you want to give them as much information as you can so that they can utilize that information in identifying the titles for you. You can also request career counseling by email. And for that, you would send in your application via the email address that is associated with the career counseling by email, which is cms.counselingbyemail@illinois.gov. That's on the screen now. I will also be putting this in the chat for you all to go ahead and take with you. And it is also on our website. So if you go to the website, there is a link for information on career counseling, and you'll have this link for this email address there too. And the responses for career counseling by email will be sent to you via an email. We are in the process of working on virtual career counseling, where we're able to leverage the WebEx access for applicants. That has not been fully established yet, but we're working on it, and we're in the beginning stages of that as well. So again, you have two options: by mail, by email, and either way, you want to make sure to send in as much information you can about what you're looking for and what your parameters are for the positions that you're looking for with the state. Next. Once your application has been received, it will be assigned to a career counselor, and that career counselor will review your application. They'll be able to identify any errors. They'll be able to make recommendations. For example, a lot of times people will fill out these applications and they will summarize statements as one would for a resume. And with our application, you actually want the opposite of that. We actually need you to go into as much detail as possible about the responsibilities that you had. And I'll go into more detail on that when I cover the application in a few slides. But a career counselor will be able to give you some of those recommendations when they review your application. They'll also be able to identify the titles for you and give you those recommendations along with the job descriptions, and if the positions require an exam, they'll also give you the test guide associated with that position, along with explanations of the steps that you'll need to take to apply. So they will be able to give you the insight of, okay, these positions that are recommended for you will require an exam down the road. So you'll submit your application, and then once the exam opens up, they'll let you know when they will be able to schedule you for the test. So you already know what the steps will be for the positions, and they'll give you that insight in the response to your career counseling request. Next. The state has a Successful Disabilities Opportunities Program. It's more commonly called the SB program. And so what this program does is it actually provides opportunities for individuals with disabilities to have greater access for employment opportunities with the state. And so what this does is that it allows individuals who are part of this program not only to be in the open competitive list, but also to be in the SD list when it comes to filling positions. And so when a position is being filled, if it's being filled off of the SD list, the person on the SD list is going to be competing against a much smaller amount of candidates. Now, if the position is going to be filled off of the open competitive list, this actually allows the person to be on that list as well. So it does not exclude you from the open competitive list to be a part of this program. On the contrary, it gives you an additional list to be on so that you can be more eligible for positions. Now, to be a part of the SC program, the applicant does have to be working with the Division of Rehab Services and does have to have a DRS counselor. We only need them for the certificate of eligibility, which is documentation that we have to have on file as part of this program. But DRS counselors do provide a lot of other resources to the individuals that are working with them. So they are definitely a good program to leverage as well, and find other resources that might be helpful in identifying employment and other opportunities outside of the state as well. So definitely the DRS counselors are a good resource to tap into, and also will utilize them for the establishment in the SC program. Applicants will also need to submit their applications for the SC program, so they'll need to submit applications for the titles that they want to be eligible for too. And when it comes to testing, the SC program coordinator will schedule the exams and any accommodations that would be provided for the exams. We provide a variety of different accommodations based on the circumstances that are in need for the individual. Some of these accommodations are extra time. Some of the accommodations are certain software such as Zoom text that are going to be of assistance for individuals with a visual impairment. Some of the assistance that we provide is sign language interpreters for individuals that may need a sign language interpreter for their testing that they have scheduled. So there are different accommodations that are provided, and we do have the SC program coordinator and the disabled workers program that will assist with any questions someone might have. Next. So at the CMS Disability Resource Center, that is where you can actually go ahead and reach out to someone to have all of your questions answered as far as, does my circumstance qualify for this? What documentation do I need? Any questions that you might have about the SD program, any questions you might have about accommodation, that can all be directed to the cms.disabilityrescent@illinois.gov email address, and they will be able to answer any questions that you may have. Do keep in mind that we are also at limited staff in the office at this time to make sure that everyone's safety is at the forefront while we're still providing service to the public. So you are able to reach out via phone, but if you don't get an answer, definitely go ahead and leave a message or shoot them an email. Because people are working remotely, I do encourage individuals to always follow up with an email, because sometimes email may be more accessible to the individual on a given day. We do also have access via the Illinois Relay Center, and all of these contacts are also on our website. So we do have a link for the CMS Disability Resource Center that will provide information on the contacts as well as the SD program available to the public. Next. For those of you who are veterans, veterans are provided points and preference in the application process. And so what they will need to do, you will need to establish your veteran status by providing your military discharge paperwork. And that will be very specific to your service. So if you were active duty and you have a service-connected disability, you'll submit a DD-214 along with your award letter from the VA. If you were only in the reserves, you'll submit your final discharge orders. And so it will all be contingent on the type of service that you had while you were in the military. If you're still serving, you also can submit a letter from your unit commander. So, but definitely you want to reach out to Veterans Outreach email, that Veterans Outreach by email at illinois.gov, with any questions that you might have about documentation that you'll need to provide for your military service. And this is the state's way of saying thank you for your service. We provide the points based off of the type of service. So the points can be 3, 5, or 10, depending, and it will all be specific to the individual. I definitely encourage veterans to leverage their military with the state. You want to make sure to establish your status, and your military experience does count towards employment, so you can also include that as part of your application. We do have positions that are specific only to veterans. And so for those positions, they actually will ask you to include your military experience in your application. So definitely a lot of opportunities for veterans with the state, and we encourage you to leverage your military status to get there. For those of you who are bilingual, do keep in mind that the state does utilize bilingual options for some positions that are utilized in serving the public. The languages that they use vary. It will be specific to the need of the position. But some of the positions, some of the languages that you will see will be Spanish speaking, Polish speaking, Arabic, Russian, Croatian, Chinese, Cantonese, Hindi. So it will be contingent on the need. And so you want to keep an eye on the website. And typically, the way you'll identify the language is that it will say opt and then an abbreviation of the language. So 2 letters to indicate that language. So for example, for Spanish speaking, it will say opt SS. For Polish speaking, it will say opt PO. For Arabic, it will say opt AR. So you want to keep an eye on the options that you see on the website because the options reflect skill sets that they're looking for that position. And if you are fluent in that language, you want to leverage that language in that because when you apply for that position, they will only be considering individuals that are bilingual in that language for that particular position. Now, bilingual skills are not required for all of the positions, just the ones that have been specifically coded as a bilingual skill necessary vacancy. Keep in mind that your fluency will be evaluated at the time of the interview, so you do have to be fluent. The evaluations will have a verbal component. They may have you read and write and translate, so be prepared to be able to utilize that fluency when you are being evaluated. Now, if you see a position and it does not have a language listed, when they contact you for an exam, you can actually let them know, hey, I'm bilingual in this position. And ask them, does this position utilize this language? If so, I'd like to be put on the bilingual list. And so what that does is when you get your grade for that exam that you've taken, you will have a grade on the regular open competitive list, but you'll also have a grade for the bilingual list for that title as well. And so that allows you to have that grade ready to go so that when you see the vacancy, you don't have to worry about retaking that exam. Now, that only puts you on the eligibility list, and that makes you eligible for the position. At the time of an interview, when you are interviewing for a position, that is when they do the evaluation for the fluency. Next. To apply for employment with the state for the bargaining unit titles, you will be using a CMS 100. And so you want to make sure to be very careful when you're reading these postings on the website. You will see language that says this is a bargaining unit title. It will say do not submit an online application. So for any position that is a bargaining unit title, you will be utilizing a CMS 100 to apply for that position. And to get the application, you can go on our website, work.illinois.gov, click on any of the postings, and you'll see the link for the CMS 100 there. You want to click on that link and save that file on either your computer or your flash drive or anywhere where you will be able to access that file without the internet. And so the reason you want to make sure to download and save it is because you will save that application, type in all of your information in there, your work experience, all of the information it is asking of you, and then that is the application you will be submitting for the vacancies when the vacancies open up. That is also the application you'll be submitting for career counseling if you decide to request career counseling from the state. So you want to download that application, save it, and fill it out with as much detail as possible. You want to fill it out with the details on the responsibilities that you had that show your skill sets. So you wouldn't necessarily say, I am proficient in PowerPoint. You can say that, but you want to also give them the specifics of your responsibilities with PowerPoint. I utilize PowerPoint to create presentations using interactive media links and graphics in linking it with spreadsheets to show graphs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I did this on a weekly basis for this company to make presentations for outreach, okay? So there you're giving them the scope and the depth of your use of the software, and you're giving them the frequency. And when they know that you've had this position for a specific amount of time, they can see the length of time of your experience with this software as well. So that is the level of detail that you want to use with this application. You want to be very thorough, very detailed, very specific about your responsibilities. If you do use a summary statement, make sure you elaborate on it. Another common one that we'll see is, I manage a team of 5 people. I manage a team of whatever number of people. Now that will only let us know that you manage people. It will not tell us if you've had the authority to interview, fire, evaluate performance, take disciplinary action, hire employees, do any onboarding. All of those specifics need to be listed on the application. And when you download the application, you'll see that it gives you ample space to go into those details. Now, we do not need you to have full-on paragraphs or fancy sentences. Concise statements is all you need. I did this, I did that, I did the other thing. And that will let us know what your responsibilities were, what skill sets you use in these responsibilities, how long you use them, the frequency that you use them, and that will give them the scope of your experience, okay? So it's very different from a resume, very different from what they ask you to do in the private sector, which is, again, another reason why I always encourage people to request career counseling, so that way a career counselor can give you more feedback on the responsibilities and your application. Next. Once you have your application ready to go and you know what positions you want to apply for, you want to go on our website, which is work.illinois.gov, and look for those vacancies. So you can actually look for those vacancies by going through the Featured Jobs tab or the View All Jobs tab. And when you do your searches, they will look similar to, your results will look similar to the sample posting you have on the screen before you. It will give you the name of the position, the location, and the dates, okay? So you want to make sure to do your searches on the website, find the job position. You will have the name if you've gone through the career counselor. They will give you the exact name to search for. Otherwise, you can also do keyword searches or search based off of the agency or based off of the county as well. But once you identify the title that you want to apply for, you want to click on that vacancy and then scroll all the way to the bottom to find the agency contact where you will submit your application. Next. So this is a sample of what an agency contact verbiage might look like. So the agencies will typically have their own formatting. This is, again, just a sample, but this is what you want to look at. You want to go down, and you'll notice that there's a work location too. You want to be very sure that you're looking at the agency contact information and not the work location information, because the work location will not necessarily be the same place where you are sending your application. So you'll go to the agency contact and you'll look for that, and you'll look for how they want you to submit your application. This sample here tells you to email them the bid form and your application, and that in the subject line, you want to make sure you put the bid ID number on it. If you decide to send it via mail, they've given you the address that you can send it to right there as well. Some of the agencies will allow you to fax it. Some of the agencies will only allow you to email it. So it will vary depending on how the agency wants to receive the application. But this is what you want to look for and you want to always make sure that you are looking at the agency contact when you're looking at where to submit your application. Next. Now, some of the positions will require an exam, and we do have 5 testing centers throughout the state. We have Chicago, Springfield, Champaign, Marion, and Rockford. These addresses are also available to you on the website. And so if you are required to take an exam for a position, you will be testing at one of these 5 centers for that. You'll be reporting to one of these 5 centers rather to take your exam. Next. The way testing will work is that the test center staff will reach out to you to schedule your exam. And so they will contact you via phone. They'll let you know when your exam will be available. They'll let you know what time you need to be there. So you'll know to be there on time for your exam. Keep in mind that testing is going to be in compliance with COVID regulations. So space is limited, and therefore scheduling is very strict. So you want to make sure that once you have your appointment for your exam, that you show up during that time. And if there's anything that impedes you from doing so, you need to make sure to reach out to the test center staff as soon as possible. For individuals that are going through the SC program, the SC coordinator will be the individual scheduling the exams because they will be the ones ensuring that the appropriate accommodations are scheduled for the tester when they come in to take the exam. When you show up for your test, you will have to present a government-issued ID, so that would be a driver's license, a state ID, a passport, etc. So you will need that when you are checking in for that test. Do keep in mind that you do have to go through a security checkpoint before you get up to the testing center. So allow some time, some buffer time for that. Most of these exams will have a time limit of 90 minutes, but we do have a couple of exams that have 2 to 3 hour time limits, and they will let you know how much time you have for the exam when they schedule you for the test. For the SC candidates, the extra time will be based on the accommodation that is being provided. Multiple choice exams are going to be given on the computer, and so your grade notice is given to you the same day you take your exam. So as soon as you're done with your test, you'll know how you scored on the exam. Okay? The grades available are A, B, C, or fail. Once you have your grade, it is valid for 1 year. The good thing about this is that once you have your A, you don't have to worry about retaking this exam for a whole year. So let's say, for example, you took an exam for a position and you got an A, but you didn't get hired for that particular vacancy that you applied for. But let's say a couple weeks down the road, now you see that that title is vacant again. And so you can actually apply to that vacancy and not have to worry about retaking the exam if you already have your A. So keep in mind that some of these positions are used by various agencies. So for example, you might see an office associate open with Department of Labor and also with DCFS and also with Department of Employment Security. So there are some positions that are utilized by multiple agencies, and so you may be applying for a vacancy with one agency, and later on down the road, you might see that that title has a vacancy with another agency. And if you already have that A, you can confidently apply for that vacancy without having to think about a test that you might have to take. If you don't have the A, they will be allowing individuals to retake exams. They are working on the stipulations for that at this time because the process had to change to be in compliance with COVID and to ensure that the testing is being able to be carried out for the vacancies that do need it. So those kinks are being worked out, but just, go ahead and continue applying for the positions that you are targeting. And then when the test becomes available, they will notify you. Next. The other way that you will get evaluated is based off of your training and experience. And so this is called the TRAEX evaluation. So for positions that do not require a test, they will be evaluating you based off of the information that you put on your application, and that is it. So when they look at your application, they will look at your education, they'll look at your training, your experience, your duties, your responsibilities, the coursework that you've listed. All of that will be taken into account to determine your grade. There is no multiple choice exam. So you see here that the applications are very important to this process. For the tested positions, the application determines whether you're qualified to take the exam or not. For the non-tested positions, the application determines your grade. So if you put an application in there and you're vague about some duties, they're not allowed to call you and say, hey, we saw that you put this statement on here, can you clarify? Or, hey, when you manage this team of 5 people, did you have the authority to evaluate performance? That will not be happening. So if it's not on the application, it doesn't exist. So just be thorough, be detailed when you are listing your duties and your responsibilities on the application with the CMS 100. So once they've evaluated your application, they will send you the grade through the mail. So it comes through the post office mail, and it will come to your address that you have put on the application. And the grades that you can receive through the TRAEX evaluation are also A, B, C, or fail. The grades stay on file for 1 year. So at any point in time during that year, just like with the tested titles, if you see another vacancy for that title, you can submit your application. You don't have to worry about getting a new evaluation. If you don't have an A, they will reevaluate your application to see if maybe this time you met the qualifications for the A, in case you've gained any additional experience or completed any additional coursework or anything that will get you to the point of qualifying for that A. So if you don't have the A, they reevaluate your grade. If you have the A, they let your A stand, and your A is valid for an entire year. Oh, before, sorry, Daniel, can you go back? One more note. With these non-tested titles, you are able to appeal your grade. So if you get a grade back and let's say you get a B or you get a C or you get a fail, you are allowed to appeal your grades. You do have to do it in writing though. So you'll have to send them a letter, reply, and let them know, I don't agree with this grade. I believe I should have gotten an A. Present your arguments for why you should have gotten an A. At that point, you can also provide your transcripts, any additional details about your experience, anything that you think will be helpful in re-evaluating your grade. And then that way, and you can have them take a second look at your application to get that A. You also want to make sure to ask why you did not get the A. So you can ask them to contact you and explain to you what was lacking in your application. A lot of times, it will be just people didn't add enough detail about a particular type of experience, or something was filled out incorrectly on the application. We've had people submit applications without signatures. So you want to make sure that you find out what caused you to not get the A, so that you can know what to correct on your application going forward as you apply for other positions, so you don't encounter that same issue in the future. Next. You'll find that on our website, we also have a new online application process. Currently, this online application process is available only for the merit comp titles. So those are the positions that will not be saying this is a bargaining unit title. The merit comp titles are the ones that are not going specifically to the union, and so you will actually apply for the positions that are not bargaining unit titles directly online. You'll see an apply button at the bottom. You will click on that apply button. It will allow you to submit your information, and you will apply directly through that. Keep in mind that there is an apply button for all of the vacancies. So you will only click the apply button for the positions that tell you that you can apply directly online. Unfortunately, we're not able to mute the apply button for the bargaining unit titles at this time. And down the road, we are eventually moving towards having all of the application process online. So please bear with us as we transition. So while we are in this transition, please make sure that you are reading thoroughly through the posting. If it is a bargaining unit title, do not click on the apply button. Follow the submission instructions. If it is a merit comp title and not a bargaining unit title, you can apply directly through the link to start your application process for that vacancy. Next. For the online process, you will need to create an online account and a profile. So this is a sample of what it will look like to get started to create your account. Next. Once you've created your account, you'll go in and populate your profile. So you'll put in your work experience, your education, information about certifications, licenses, your county preference, etc. So you'll put all of this information in there, and then this information will get populated when you apply online for the positions that allow you to apply through the web. You can definitely get started with this profile start now, because you will be able to use it down the road once we transition to all the titles being online. This also allows you to create job searches and job alerts. Next. So currently there's two processes that you'll find online. For the bargaining unit titles, you'll complete an application, the CMS 100. You will mail or email that to the agency contact on the posting, and your evaluation will be based off of a TRAX or an automated exam, and that will set you up for the interview process. For the online process title, the merit comp titles, you will actually complete an online application via your profile and questions that they will ask you when you apply online. All of that will be submitted via the link in the posting, and your evaluation will be based off of everything you submit online when you apply online for that title, and that will set you up for the interview process. So these are the two processes: the bargaining unit, which uses the CMS 100, the PDF, the paper application, and then the online process that will have everything going directly online once you click apply on that posting. Next. You are able to create job alerts on our website. So you actually want to do this so you can stay on top of vacancies when they open up, so that you can submit your applications before the vacancy posting closes, and so you can apply online for those merit comp titles before the posting closes as well. So you can go on the website. Once you've created your profile, you'll go to options and you'll see a link that says job alerts. As you're looking through the postings as well, it gives you the option of create a new job alert if you happen to find something that you come across a vacancy and you're like, oh, this is a great opportunity for me, but it's not in the county I want. Let me create a job alert for this title in case it opens up in the county that I want to work in. So, definitely leverage these job alerts to help you get those postings as soon as they come up. Next. And to create these job alerts, you're going to see a screen that looks very much like what's on your screen right now. You can do searches and set multiple alerts based off of specific title. So if you've gone through career counseling, you can actually put in the title that the career counselor recommended for you and set up a job alert for that title so that it can send you notices anytime that title opens up. It can be based off of keywords. You know, let's say you want a position and you want to make sure that it is psychology. So you want anything that has psychology in it, and it'll send you that. You can do based off of the location. You know, you want all of the vacancies that open up in Cook County. You want to know what they are as they're opening up. You can do it based off of agency or based off of job function. So, you know, I want all of the vacancies that open up for technology, or all of the vacancies that open up for clerical opportunities. So you can utilize all of these different aspects to create job alerts so that you know when these vacancies are opening up. And you can actually set the frequency that you want those job alerts. So currently in the sample that you see on your screen, it says send me the alerts every 7 days. You can change that to every 3 days, every 5 days, whatever frequency you feel will work with you. And you can create the alerts, and it will keep a record of your alerts, so you'll know what job alerts you have going. And let's say you've changed your mind about a specific alert, you can turn that alert off and add as many alerts as you need. Next. So in wrapping up, some of the things that you want to remember, all of the information is on our website. The contact for the different resources is on our website. The application, the postings, information on the jobs, information on career counseling, information on the different resources as far as the Disability Resource Center, Veterans Outreach, that's also available on our website as well. So definitely go to our website to get that information, but I will also be posting these links in the chat so you can copy this and these email addresses and save them for yourself as well. Next. So again, there are many benefits of working with the state. Remember that appointments for testing will be scheduled by test center staff. So if you do apply for a position that does require a test, all you have to worry about is submitting your application. They will reach out to you when the test is available. Remember that you want an A grade for these positions for your eligibility, and that your A grade will last for an entire year. So you don't have to worry about retesting or reevaluating for an entire year. And you also want to make sure to keep an eye on the website so that you are up to date with your vacancies, and you can reach out to, again, our career counseling staff with questions that you might have, our test center staff with questions that you might have, and you will also be able to access the email addresses for these resources on there too. As noted earlier, definitely engage the agencies on the social media. With the shift in the way that we've had to work with adjusting to COVID, a lot of these agencies are now leveraging social media. So if you are interested in state employment, seek them out in social media, because you'll get a lot of insights as to the agency, what they're doing, what they're working on, what their current initiatives are, what their opportunities are as well. So definitely tap into them via the different social media aspects. As far as CMS, you can engage us via LinkedIn, and you'll find there that we have informational posts, we have information on vacancies, we have webinars that we provide, there are professional development as well as cultural development, etc. So there's a lot of different webinars that we have available to the public for free that are definitely useful and can be leveraged in, as you're applying and seeking employment with the state, both with CMS and the other agencies. So definitely seek us out, and also the other agencies that are on there too. Next. My name is Myra Magana. Again, my contact information is on the screen. You can definitely reach out to me. I am currently working remotely, so the best way to reach me is via email. And then if we need to speak on the phone, I can set up a WebEx call for you. So definitely reach out to me via email first. I'd be happy to assist with any questions that you might have. And then if there's a need to discuss things further with more detail, I'll be happy to schedule a WebEx call for us to be able to speak since I am working remotely. And the phone number that is on the slide is the phone number directly to my office. So I have limited access to that. So any questions that you have, again, I'd be happy to assist. Do please pose your questions on the chat so that we can cover all of them today. And if after today you think of something else, definitely feel free to either reach out to myself or reach out to any of the other CMS staff. Definitely leverage that career counseling. Once you have career counseling, you'll have the contact information of the person that reviewed your application. So you'll also have that person to reach out to directly with any questions that you might have. Thank you very much for your time today.
Fantastic. And I think you can go ahead and take a brief breath there, Myra. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you, Daniel.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Myra.
Sir, you need to enter any questions that you have into the chat and we'll get them answered for you as time allows. Thank you very much. But circling back to what I was going to say, Myra, thank you again for that very thorough and insightful presentation there. Again, lots of wonderful information covered for folks who might be interested in opportunities with the state of Illinois. So thank you for that, Myra. And again, I just do want to reiterate, if you do have any questions for Myra regarding the presentation here today, or more specifically, the state of Illinois' hiring process, please feel free to enter those into the chat and we'll get those questions answered for you as soon as possible. Myra, looking at the chat here, we'll just go ahead in order of the questions that I have received. First question that I do have here, this individual asks, do applicants have a choice as to where the exam can be completed?
No, they will be scheduled by the test center staff, and typically the test center closest to the location of the vacancy will be who will be where they will take the exam. So, for example, if the vacancy is in Rockford, but the person lives in Chicago, because the vacancy is in Rockford, that they're applying for, they'll be contacted by the Rockford staff.
Understood. Thank you so much for that, Myra.
Mm-hmm.
And there's another question that's at least kind of loosely regarding this presentation. I think I can go ahead and answer this one for you. To the individual that asks for the state, if the only agency listed that'll be hiring is DCFS, the answer to that is no. DCFS is just the organization that was highlighted for this event in particular, but of course there are openings and vacancies in other state agencies. So you can go ahead and go on the programs that Myra covered here today and look for openings or vacancies that are in other state agencies as well. Myra, circling back to you, there's another question in the chat. Is there any age limit to apply for state jobs?
The age limit depends. Well, let me take that back. There is no age limit to apply. There are certain positions, specifically the ones that are related to law enforcement, that may have age limits associated based on the specific position. But in general, there is no age limit, as long as you can work full time, because all of these are full-time positions. So as long as you can work full time, you're fine. What the state is looking for is, do you meet the qualifications and are you a good fit for this vacancy? So they're not looking at, where are you in your lifespan? And so that's one thing that I really liked about the state, is that they're looking at what you've done and what you're bringing to the table. So, and the state has a variety of positions from entry level to executive level. So we have, clerical, we have building grounds, we have attorneys, we have management, we have directors, we have people who are, doing evaluations on the grants that are provided. So it's a very broad spectrum. So I definitely encourage people to seek out what's in the postings and what's available, because you never know when you'll find something that would be a great fit for you.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Myra. And I did receive another question in the chat here, and I'll go ahead and kind of abbreviate it. Can you kind of elaborate on what the turnaround time might typically be for positions with the state, during the application process? I know it's probably going to vary, but can you just give folks an idea of what that might look like?
Unfortunately, I don't have a specific time frame, and there's definitely a delay with the new way that we have to adjust to working within the COVID capacity. It's not a fast process. That's the only thing I can guarantee you right now. They're not going to reach out to you in a week or two, because they do still have to go through the process of evaluating the applications or scheduling the exams. If a position requires an exam, they will let them know when the exams are available, because we have 5 test centers and we have to test for all the agencies. So everything is being done, being scheduled. And so that's why that's causing a bit of a delay, because we do have capacity limitations for the testing as well.
Fantastic. Thank you for that, Myra. And I just do want to pause here briefly and just reiterate, if you do have questions for Myra regarding anything that was covered here today, or anything else regarding the application process for the positions that are available with the state of Illinois, please feel free to enter those in the chat. We'll get those answered for you. In the meantime, Myra, while we are waiting for some of those additional questions, I do have one that just came in here. It says, when there are various state agencies, should applicants apply for them separately?
You should apply a separate application for each vacancy. So if you see a vacancy with DHS and you see another vacancy with DCFS and you see another vacancy with Department of Labor, you send each of those agency contacts your application. So every vacancy is treated separately.
Understood. Thank you for that, Myra. And again, I just do want to reiterate, while we have just a few minutes left here before our session concludes today, if you do have any questions regarding, the hiring process with the state of Illinois, or even circling back to some of our initial 2 presentations that were covered here today, now would be the ideal time for you to enter those into the chat so we can get those answered. And again, I do believe this question came in the chat earlier. Yeah. Again, generally speaking, I think Myra gave a response on what the timeline or turnaround time is. I would defer to her again to kind of give a brief overview of what that looks like.
So as far as it's a few months, yes, it's normal. There's a bit of a delay right now. So just make sure that you are submitting your applications. One tip that I did want to say is, with the state, you're not limited in the number of positions that you can apply for. So you are allowed to apply for multiple vacancies at one time. So I encourage you to apply for as many as you qualify for, because you never know which one's the one that's going to open up and get your foot in the door. Because of the way this process works, some positions may move a little bit faster than others, that depending on how the posting process is working at the time of the vacancy. So always keep an eye on the postings and ensure to submit your applications to the different vacancies. Another tip that I recommend that you do is save a copy of that posting, whether it be as a PDF file or printing it out. That way you know who the agency contact was, what posting you applied for, etc. Because for the bargaining units, it's still not through the online system. We don't have a way of keeping that record. But for the merit comp positions, it should list the positions that you've applied for. But for any of the positions that are bargaining unit, if you apply for a vacancy, make sure you keep a copy of that so you know what you're applying for, when you did it, and who the contacts are for that vacancy, so that way you know who to follow up with in case you have a question like, hey, I applied for this vacancy a while ago. Is it still in the process? Because bargaining unit titles do go have a different process in the merit comp, sometimes the positions do get filled internally. So if it does get filled internally, it doesn't go to the outside. We are working on more effective communications to let people know. We do understand that, you know, it can be frustrating to not hear back and not know what's going on. So do keep in mind that we are working on improving that communication across the board with the different agencies. Each agency works a little bit differently as far as how they handle the vacancies once they're in the process of filling them and communicating with people. Somebody asked about the veteran status, and I forgot to mention this earlier. Once veterans establish their veteran status in the system with CMS, it's there indefinitely. It should be there. But if you're not sure if your veteran status is still on file, you can always reach out to the test center and ask them if they can check for you. So any of the 5 test centers will be able to look up veteran status to see if you're in the system as a veteran. But it should be in there indefinitely. It's a one and done deal. You put it in and it's there. You can also update that. This is another thing that I forgot to mention earlier. Let's say you're a veteran and you're in the process of establishing your service-connected disability. You can establish your veteran status, and then while you're still waiting for that award letter, and then once you get that award letter, submit it, and then it will update your veteran status so that you can now get the points that are associated with the service-connected disability.
Fantastic. Thank you for that, Myra. And we did receive an additional question in the chat. This individual asks, should one be discouraged if one does not meet all requirements listed? If you are missing 1 or 2, would this be a disqualifying or precluding factor, Myra, to gaining whatever position it is that they're applying for?
So the requirements can sometimes be a little bit flexible, and you always want to make sure to read through the job description to check. For example, if a specific requirement comes up, if you read through the requirements and it specifies requires a bachelor's degree in psychology, there's no way around it. You either have it or you don't, okay? But if it says requires a degree in psychology or the equivalent in education and training, then you have leverage. Then if you don't have the degree but you have the 4 years of college, or if you don't have the degree but you got 2 years of college and 2 years of the related experience, you know, you can substitute that for the degree requirement. So you want to make sure to always read through the job description and the requirements thoroughly. If it specifically indicates that it wants a degree or a degree in a specific field or a specific amount of credit hours, and you don't have that, then you want to make sure that you look for positions that will have the requirements that are a little bit more flexible. So keep that in mind as you're reading through the job requirements. Some of them will give you that flexibility of substituting your experience, and some of them will not.
Fantastic. Thank you for that, Myra. And if you do have any last minute questions for Myra, please enter those into the chat. We will be concluding the session here shortly. Looks like we do have an additional question. And Myra, I don't know if you would be able to answer this or if maybe somebody from IDES that's on the line would be able to. But
I think this is a TED question.
Okay. Theodore, I'm not sure if you're able to unmute yourself and answer this question. But this individual asked, does JobLink, which shares job openings with people who are receiving unemployment benefits, include job openings within state agencies? And Theo, I don't know if you're able to unmute yourself and answer that question real briefly. If not, you can also use the chat to answer that individual as well.
I believe it does send some. I just don't know if it does all. I know that it does the scraping system and it does pull from the state employment website, but I don't know if it does all of them.
Okay.
And Daniel, if you want to ask that question again, I kind of got cut off a little bit there.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you, Theo. The question asked, or the individual asked, does JobLink, which shares job openings with people who are receiving unemployment benefits, include job openings within state agencies?
Yes, it does. We're currently working on a migration of a new process because CMS has gone to a different system now. But previously it did all, but we will be back probably within the next 30 days doing that again. We'll receive all those job postings within Illinois Job Link.
Fantastic. Thank you for that, Theo. Much appreciated. And with that, we will go ahead and kind of begin our wrap up for today's session. Again, a couple things that I want to note. First off, of course, I want to thank Eileen and I want to thank Myra for your presentations today. Thank you for covering all of that information. It's definitely a lot and a lot for the job seekers to absorb. But nonetheless, lots of great information that was presented to them to hopefully help them through their application process and through the virtual job fair process as well. So thank you both for that. Again, thank you to the job seekers who are on the call today. I do want to make a brief note here. The session has been recorded and it will be uploaded to the Illinois WorkNet YouTube channel later this afternoon for you to view at a later date. So all of the information that was covered here today, and again, we know it's quite a bit of information that was covered. You will be able to access that through the recording at a later date and be able to, again, review anything that was covered here today. So you can either use it to fill out your applications with the state or further prepare for the upcoming virtual events that we will be hosting later this week and in the future. Again, we'd like to thank you all for attending today. We hope you have a wonderful day. And again, I just do want to highlight for the folks that are on the call, if you have not yet registered for these sessions on Thursday and Friday, please be sure to circle back to that registration page and do so. You will, again, you'll need to register for each of those sessions to be able to attend both the informational session with employers and then, the big final key piece of this, of course, will be the small group interviews where you'll get to meet one-on-one with, the employer reps who will be participating in this week's event. So if you have not yet done so and you are interested, please be sure to register for each of those sessions as well. Again, thank you all. We hope you have a wonderful day and we will see you Thursday and Friday. Thank you all very much.